Greetings, pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today we are back in our game project here, and we are going to be working on our enemy portals here. So you see this neat swirling effect we have here, and it is double-sided. And so these are the gates that the enemies are going to be coming out of. So these will be positioned around the edge of the map, and the enemies will appear in front of these and come onto the game board and be your foes. So today we're going to work on primarily this effect in the center here. I'm going to show you how I created the texture assets for this inside of Photoshop, and then how we do both the blueprint for the portal, putting two pieces together here, and the effect of it rotating, and the model here and the textures I will be providing. So those are not the focus of the tutorial, but I will provide those to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So first up, we're going to need some kind of a vortex-y type texture. So let's pop over to Photoshop and see how we create that. Okay, so here we are inside of Photoshop, and this is the end result of what we're going to be creating here. And I'm going to step through you how I got to this point, okay? So we're going to rebuild it together. So start with a new layer, and on this new layer, with black and white selected here, or if you just click this little box, that will reset it to black and white. We're going to go to the top and say Filter, and we're going to say we want Render Clouds. So we just want some clouds here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do Filter, Render Difference Clouds, and that will create this neat effect, okay? Now, if you'll notice at the top, if I click Filter again, if I wanted to redo Render Difference Clouds, I could just do that by saying Control F. So what I'm going to do is Control F a few times. So Control F, Control F, Control F, something like that. Now I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to redo the whole thing. So I'm going to say Filter, Render Clouds. I'm going to do Filter, Render Difference Clouds. And now again, Control F, and I'm just going to do this back and forth until I get something else that's interesting. So we want two of these, okay? Now, what we're going to do is take each of these, and if I use my little cheat sheet here, we're going to be swirling these, okay? So I'm going to take the first one. Let's hide that. Take the first one here. And we're going to say Filter, and we want Distort, and we want this, where is it? Polar coordinates right there. And I'm not going to change any of the settings. We're just going to say OK to that. Now you'll notice this gives us a really nice circular kind of effect, and it stretches things out, and the center is not too great, but we're gonna override that. So we're just looking at from about here on outwards to the edges, okay? So now let's do the same thing for our second layer here. So let's go Filter, and we can just click here, Polar Coordinates. So now we have these two. So we have one over top of the other, and on the guy that's on top, I'm going to change this to Screen. So where is Screen? There is Screen. So this will start to blend the two of them together. We really like that. Now, let's add an effect. So I'm going to click down here, the effects, and let's add a color overlay. All right? So we're going to pick our color, and the color that I like for my portals here is going to be 62 for the red. It's going to be 245 for the green and 15 for the blue. So that's the color that I like. And I'm going to change this to multiply. And you'll see now we start to get really nice kind of weird, dark, unnatural energy. And these two layers will now interact. You see as I turn these on or off, they kind of blend together. Very good. Okay, so let's do a new layer on top of these. I'm going to go to the top and say Filter. And I believe it's Render, Fibers. Okay, could not complete because the selected area is empty. Oh, that's right. We do need to have something in the space first. So what I did here is let's do Filter, and we'll just create some clouds real quick. Just something on there. It doesn't really matter. And now Filter, Render, Fibers. There we go. So that's really good. Again, I'm going to keep it at the normal settings. I'm not changing any of this. Just say OK, and that gives us this. And you'll notice these are really nice striations. This will be really good for, obviously, fibers. Or if you wanted to use this for like a tree bark or something like that, this is a good shortcut for that as well. But we're going to use it a little differently. So let's go up and do Filter, and we want Distort, Twirl. So we're going to say Twirl. Now this is really good. I kept my numbers here. You don't want to go all the way to the end because it gets a little too stretched out, and it's not quite that impressive. So I'm just going to put this at 550 and say OK. That's pretty cool. We like that a lot. So now, leaving him where he is, let's do a multiply. And I'm going to turn this down to, say, 25%. So let's bring this down 25%. There we go. And you'll see how that's interacting with our lower layers. So that's looking really cool. Okay. Now let's do another new layer. And you'll notice that I should mention this image is square, of course. It's 512 by 512. And I've put these guide marks to tell me exactly where the center is. So to create these guide marks, if you're not familiar, you'll need the rulers visible here. And I believe that's under View, Show, or here, Rulers. And you can show guides, grid lines, that kind of thing. So guides and rulers on. So to create these, you just click over here and drag. And now you can place a guide anywhere you like. And in the top right, I can't show you at the same time because of this, but if I put this back over here, if you look over here, you'll see that it tells me where I'm going to place this. So right there, if I wanted to put it right at 60, I'd have to kind of fudge it a little bit. Right there, 60, 59, 60. So I could drop it right there. So, and you can also zoom in and move these a bit. So that's a really good way to tell where you're at. So I put these right at 256 and 256. So to get a vertical one, you just go like this, or horizontal line pulling from a vertical axis. So that will give me a nice center mark here. And the reason that's important is because now we're going to create, okay, go away. We're going to create a gradient circle. So we want almost like a dome type effect. So we're going to click over here to our gradients, and I'm going to choose this second gradient over. This is a radial gradient, okay? So I'm going to select that, and now I'm going to click from the center here and down off, and I'm going to click and drag down off to the bottom corner here. Doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to make sure that we click right there, and that will give us our radial gradient. There we go. Now we want 3 copies of this in total, okay? So I'm going to hit Control J twice. Control J is the shortcut for duplicate. So the bottommost layer of these 3 that we created, we're going to change this to overlay, and I'm going to change its transform. So if I do Control T, I'm transforming it now. Up here, I'm going to lock this in place, and let's do 200%. Boom. Okay. Doesn't look like much right now, but we're getting there, okay? Now, let's go to the middle layer, and we're just going to go to the middle layer. Oop, I have to hit enter, sorry. The middle layer here, and we're going to change its mode down to hard light. And then the one above that is going to be hard light as well, but he's going to come down to 50%. And you'll see the nice effect we're getting here. Look at that. So we have this really bright light in the center, and what we're getting now is these different layers interacting with one another. So let's put all of this into a group. So you select everything, click once, hold Shift, click here, and then hold Control and hit G to group it all together. So you'll see here's the one that I made, and here's the one we made together. And it's really just a matter of randomizing those different clouds. So try different combinations of that. You know, how many times you hit it, what it looks like when you're all done, and you'll see the difference it'll create. And what's really cool is you do this a couple of times, you'll get a different result each time. Okay? So all I did was I saved this out. So what I'm going to do here is take this and say, we need to do a save. So File, Save As. And then I called this, it was a PNG. You can see right here, I called it Enemy Portal Whip. So this is a work in progress because I'm not sure if I like it yet or not, but it is the effect I'm going for. So we're going to save that there. And as you can see, it's a 512 by 512. And just make sure that you save it somewhere that you can access it and bring it into the project. Now, if I open it, let's see if we can open this up for you, and I'll show you what it looks like. So desktop, let's go to our project folder. There we are. And it should be in here, Enemy Whip. Where did it go? Maybe it's not here. Let's do another save as, and we'll see. So File, Save As. Where is it putting this at? Oh, the Assets folder on the D drive. Okay. Different location. So there we go. We'll get to that real quick. Battleboards, Assets, there we go. So let's open this guy up and see what the final product looks like. Now, one thing I wanted to make sure is take a look at the channels. So we do have our RGB. There's no alpha here. We don't really need to be worrying about that, okay? So there we go. That guy's all set. So let's bring him into Unreal, and then we will start to work on the effect. Okay, so that's all done. So now here in Unreal, we need to make a material, and we need to have our model here. And now the model is actually 2 models that have been imported that both have the same pivot. So their pivot is right here in the center, It's actually one model that is a plane in this place in space here, and another model which is the arch. So if I go to my content here, and if I go to my meshes, I can show you the individual meshes. So here is the actual portal mesh. The portal itself is nothing special. It's a plane. It's a flat plane. Okay. Now the arch itself, if I bring the arch over, you'll see here's what the arch looks like. And this is an old texture on here, so that's why that looks kind of funky. But so the arch itself is just nothing by itself. So, but this is one object here. So how are they together in the world? Well, it's because this is a blueprint where they're all combined. Let's go ahead and create that, and then we'll create the portal effect of the spinning and all that, and then it will all come together. So I'll go to my blueprints folder, and you'll see I already have it here, and I can bring it over here to show you. I already have it here. See, it's working. Looks very nice. So let's go ahead and recreate it together, okay? So I'm going to right click and say blueprint, and it is going to be an actor. Let's call this BP Toot Portal, okay? And I'm going to double click it. And here it is. So it's nothing, and this is, I'm just showing the floor here, so you can turn the floor off right here. Click and say do not show floor. There we are. Okay. So first things first, let's go ahead and get rid of the default scene root here. So we'll click add component. We will click scene, and I'm going to call this enemy portal. And I'm going to drag and drop this on top of here. Now we have absolutely nothing. All this is a point in space. Now we're going to add another component. We want to add 2 static meshes. So I'm going to add 2 real quick. There we go. So the first one, I'm going to rename it to arch. I'm going to rename this one, come on, rename portal. Okay, so it should be pretty self-explanatory what we're going to do here. So for the portal, I'm going to look for the static mesh that is portal, and you can use your searching here to your advantage. So I just type PO, and it's going to give me everything that comes up. So I want the second one down, so that's the portal itself. And then for the arch, I'm going to do the same thing. PO, the arch. And there they are together. Now the arch is remembering its old texture, so I'm going to give it its new texture. And this is just a texture I made just for the arch itself, and I will provide the textures for this, and I'll show you the material itself. It's nothing special, just plugging in the components. So that's for that. Now the portal is a material that we haven't created yet, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll come back to this. So let's save everything, and just for show and tell, let's put our new portal, the one that you and I are creating together, next to this guy, okay? Put them side by side. And that looks pretty good. Let's bring them forward just a little bit. I'm a stickler for making everything exact. There we go. Side by side. Okay, so pretty good so far, but obviously this is not doing anything, so that's what we need to do next. So let's go into our materials folder, and here you can see our current material, and you can even see it rotating there. So we're going to make a new one, material, call it mat_toot portal, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and assign it. We can't assign it there, sorry. I want to do is just drag and drop, but I keep forgetting these are blueprints. So let's open it up. Okay. So here's our material, and we need to do a couple of things. First up, right off the bat, we need to make sure it's the correct type of material. Right now, this is a surface opaque, and we actually want it to be a translucent because we want it to be see-through. We don't want to be able to, have a solid portal that doesn't look very good. Now, we need to bring in our texture. So I'm going to go back to the asset browser here, go into the texture, and I'm going to use the one that I have and drag it into here. And just drag and drop. And there we go. Here's our texture. I'm going to use this twice, actually, so I'm going to duplicate it right away. So Control W. Okay? So we have 2 of them. So this is just accessing texture that is the thing we made in Photoshop. So over here, I'm going to, I don't think you need to, but I'm going to anyway. You right click and start typing texture coordinate. There we go. I'm going to make sure that this is at 1 by 1, so I can explicitly say, hey, make sure that there is nothing funky going on and that I have a 1 by 1, that you're treating this texture exactly as it should be. All right, there it is. Now I need a bump offset. So I'm going to right click and say bump offset. There we go. And I'm going to drag from the alpha of this up into the height. And I think you can actually choose any of the channels because it's going to choose it as it's going to use it as a black and white offset. And if I save, we should see a gradient appear here. There we go. There we go. You see that nice gradient appearing there. Okay, so nothing going on here yet because we haven't connected anything to it yet. But don't worry, we're getting there. So next up, we need to make it spin. So let's do a rotator. So I'm going to drag off of here and say rotator. And this is just telling it, hey, take whatever we're giving you and spin it. So if I look over here at my other one, yeah, it's default values, and then I did change the speed to a 1. Okay, so it's 0.5, 0.5, 1. Now, here is where we're going to connect this to this guy. So now it will be spinning that result. So if I do a save, let it catch up, and let it kind of calculate all the things that we're doing. And it's figuring out, okay, I see what you're doing. Let me save all that. I should be able to say, preview this node, or preview on a flat surface. We give it a second to catch up. There we go. It's spinning. But you see, we have a little bit of weirdness going on at the corners as it spins and the texture repeats. But that's we're gonna perform a special operation here in a moment, and we'll get rid of that. But for now, it's working. We have our material and it is spinning. Okay. So next up, we need to, we're going to just throw this directly into the base color. Okay, so this is going to be the color information. That's all set. But now we want to make sure that the portal kind of glows and has this mysterious energy look to it. So I'm going to right click and say multiply. And for my multiply, I'm going to set the B value, the secondary value, to something like 5. And I'm just going to take this and put it directly into here. So it's multiplying the colors of this 5 times brighter. And we're going to put this into the emissive color. There we go. So that's going to make it glow a bit. Now, I'm also going to take from the, let's see, ambient occlusion to make it very bright, right from the alpha, which should be solid. So actually, let's do this because it'll be cooler. A nice cool effect. Okay. So everything is all set except we still have this problem with the weird edges. And now we're going to fix that, okay? I'm going to bring all this a little closer just because it's better. There we go. So you can see it's glowing a bit in the center. Got a lot brighter in the center there. But now we need to cut off those edges. And we do that using a radial gradient exponential. So right click, there you go. Just type the word radial and you'll see radial gradient exponential. So let's click that. And my settings for this, there's no real settings that you need to change. You can do some inputs here if you wanted to change the offset, how much it fades, but we're not going to bother with any of that. We just kind of click and drag into opacity. And what this is creating here, it's creating almost like we did in Photoshop, where we created that gradient from the center outwards. And when you go from that center to the corner, it's going to create this. We're going to use this as the opacity mask. There we go. So now if I stop previewing this, and let's do a save, if all is well in the world, then we should have our nice little circle, and it's cutting off at the edges. There you go. So we're cutting off at the edges. So we're using this radial here, and let's do a preview of this, you'll see what I'm talking about. So if we preview this, what is this? Show me what you are actually doing. And you'll see it's just like we made in Photoshop. It's white in the center, and yeah, then it fades off to gray at the edges and to black. So all of these inputs here, you can put in to say, where does this transition occur? You could make it occur starting sooner, or you can make it occur right at the edge. Imagine almost like a curved surface. How much does it fall off? Does it fall off right away, like from one block here to the next, or does it go from this block all the way up to here, or from this block all the way over to here? What kind of a transition are we getting? So that's what those effects are for here, but if you don't change anything, this is what you get. So I'm going to stop previewing the node and give it a chance to catch up. So that's what all that's doing, and it's not really that complex. We have a really neat effect now. We have our portal is spinning, and not only is it spinning, but it has this nice soft edge cut off. Okay, so we'll do a quick save for that. Now that that's all done, we can go back into our blueprint and start assigning this material because it now exists. So let's go back into that. So if I go back here to our blueprint, so here's our portal, and for the portal itself, let's choose our new material. So I'm going to say mat underscore, and we want enemy portal. Where's the one we just made? Toot portal. There it is. Let's assign it. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. So we have a spinning vortex portal in the center of our stone aperture here. And we made all of this using just a few simple materials. Up. Look at that. The back, it disappears from the back. So to fix that, we're going to fix that by going back to our material. This is a very simple fix. Click on this. And in this area, we're just going to say two-sided. Save. That tells us that render this from both sides, just in case as we're playing the game and we rotate the camera, we see the portal from behind. We don't want it to suddenly look like there's nothing there. And now you can see as I flip back and forth, you can see it's on the back as well. And it does continue to spin in the same direction. So here it's spinning counterclockwise. And as I turn, it's spinning clockwise because it's the opposite side of it. So it does keep that in play for us. And now if I go back to here, you'll notice this is the back of it, and there's our portal. I go to the front, and there's our portal. So with that done, let's compile and save. And now back in our main scene, we can see here that everything is identical. So congratulations, you've made your own portal here. And once again, I want to reiterate that the files will be on the website. I will put a link in the description so you can download the archway model and the textures for it. And then if you just follow along inside of Photoshop, or if you don't have Photoshop or don't know how to use it, there's always GIMP, which is free. So look up some tutorials and you can figure out how to do an approximation of the same thing. I'll also provide the portal just in case you can't make it, then you can always download that as well and just use it so you can follow along. And I hope you guys have really enjoyed. I'm going to be off for a few days. We are hunkering down for Hurricane Irma here, and I'm going to be taking care of the family. So I will be back hopefully next week with another tutorial for you. In the meantime, be well, and if you guys have any questions, please let me know. And as always, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.